By this point, I think we all know that microtrends are dead, so rest in peace to the algorithm-fueled cause that lasted maybe 3 weeks before giving us aesthetic burnout. From tomato girl to clean girl to office core, it truly did get so exhausting. But now that the dust has truly settled on microtrends, there is this new trend, or I should probably say this new movement that is arising in fashion, and it's way deeper than just mere aesthetics. It's all about storytelling and longevity, and it's basically lore and fashion. So hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. I hope you're doing really well. So for the past couple of videos, I've been diving more into focused topics, and for today's video, I want to talk about a new trend that I've noticed in fashion recently, and it's the move away from novel and trending aesthetics and the move towards something more intentional. So it's all about storytelling and longevity and world building, and it's basically the new movement of lore and fashion. So officially the term lore kind of has its roots in fantasy storytelling, so think myths, folklore, fantasy sagas, but personally I think that in the context of fashion, lore kind of refers to the ongoing world building around a fashion brand, or the ongoing world building around a designer's universe. So first, let's zoom out for a second and talk about some of the more broader and mainstream examples that really signal this shift. So at the start of this year, one of my favourite fashion journalists, Amy Francombe, wrote a really cool piece for Vogue Business, and it was called "Microtrends Are Dead, Long Live the Vibe." And in this piece, she points to Brat Summer, and she says that this is one of the first examples of moving away from microtrends and consumers going more for an overall vibe and an overall feeling, and this being the trend rather than a specific product or a specific thing. And I do think that Amy is so right when she says this, because Brat was a whole world that you could literally step into, the music, the attitude, the fashion, all blending together to create something that felt really immersive and that also felt really real and authentic. Another great example is also FK Twig's latest creative direction, and it's all about her music, her visuals, her live events, and it's not just a performance, but it really is a ritual in a way, and she's building a world rooted in realness, raw emotion, and community. You don't need to buy a specific product or merch to be a part of the FK Twigs universe. You only have to resonate with the vibe and be on the same vibe as the rest of the community. And similar to Charlie XCX and Brat Summer, this is something that people are really craving and just really loving because it is truly so authentic. However, the way that I first started to notice this new trend of lore and fashion is through a new wave of emerging designers who are literally building their own worlds to go along with their brand and strengthen their brand universe. And some of these designers include Victor Clavelly, who I've mentioned so many times on the channel by this point. And Victor Clavelly basically uses his background in video game design and character design to visualize this whole world that he has imagined in 3D. So he's imagined this whole universe and the storyline that goes with it and the characters, and he's used 3D technology to actually visualize this world. And each season he builds on this world, he builds on the storyline, and he designs his physical garments in relationship to this story and takes inspiration from this universe. When I actually spoke to Victor and interviewed him, he said that he really wants to collect all of this information and continue building the world and the lore and the story, because one day he might turn it into an art book or a manga book or literally even a video game. And I think it's so cool because it does sum up this idea of lore so much, and it's so amazing to be brought into a designer's mind and their universe in this really immersive way. And then another designer that I noticed working in a very similar way is Yaku Stapleton. And Yaku is a London-based designer whose whole work and brand is rooted in personal mythology. So he basically uses his own family as inspiration, and he imagines them as these characters in alternate realities that he envisions and imagines. And each collection is a continuation of this saga, and he basically thinks about what would these characters be wearing as they go through these storylines in these alternate realities. And because of that, the pieces that he creates are so bold and imaginative. And then another designer that I also recently interviewed is called Justin Matringe, and he's another French designer, and he creates from within this imagined metaphorical cave. So he imagines a hidden world and then basically populates it in his mind with fantasy beings, and he asks himself, what would these beings be wearing? How would they move? How do they live? And how could that all be expressed as real life garments, and what would they look like? And he uses this imagined cave as the basis for his brand. And again, I just think it's so interesting to see people working in this creative way. And for me personally, it very much connects me even more to the physical pieces and physical designs that they create, because I know that there is so much more depth and authenticity and storytelling behind them. And there are a few other examples of emerging designers who are also exploring this deeply narrative and slow crafted fashion in a way. And these include people like Paolo Canaza or Mary Luda, Charlie Constantino, and also Taskin Goic as well. And all of their brands are really focusing on lore and world building. And in that way, it's not just about the garments, but it's also about their intention, their identity, the immersiveness of their brand, and also building longevity in both the storytelling and the literal fashion pieces that they're crafting. So why does lore fashion seem so timely, and why is now the right time for it? So the first reason is literally burnout. I think we can all agree that we've all felt the fatigue of micro trends and this rapid, frantic buying cycle of buying a piece and then being sick of it 6 months later, or wanting to sell it 6 months later, is just unsustainable, both financially but also spiritually as well. And in some ways, lore fashion has kind of emerged as this antidote to micro trends, because it's slow, it's intentional, it's emotionally driven, and it basically builds communities and it builds meaning. A designer piece that really has a deep storytelling and longevity and has been crafted from really quality materials as well, that's something that you really treasure, and that's something you keep. And now I kind of want to mention how you can bring lore into your everyday style. And these are things that I have seen a few people talk about in terms of things that they're loving for summer and things that they think do fit into this lore movement and trend. And the first thing I've seen people talk about is layering. So almost like the idea of layering your outfit like a cake with different pieces, different thrifted pieces. And it's funny because I do think I spoke about this in my 2024 fashion trend prediction video almost a year ago now, but we are actually seeing this now come to life, and people really embracing this kind of whimsical layered way of dressing. And with this, you can really think about flowy capes or tunics or wraps, and I do think we have seen a few influencers do this. There's definitely a few really cool examples of this, and I think it really makes sense because in some ways it's romanticizing every part of your wardrobe. Even if you're on a hike or outdoors, you can still wear these romanticized, whimsical garments. And personally, I think this could be something really fun to do in summer. Obviously, depending what lore you want to tap into, you could also embrace more symbols in your clothing. And something that I've seen spoken about is this idea of hand-stitched symbols or celestial embroidery, or even when you think about bag charms as well and the whole charm movement, this is another way to bring symbols into your wardrobe, symbols into your outfit, and it's definitely a way to tap into lore and create kind of your own personal lore in your wardrobe as well. So since this isn't just a quick trend that we're going to see come and go like micro trends, where is the future of fashion lore heading? Well, for me, I personally think, and the thing that excites me the most about lore and fashion is how emerging and new designers are going to continue to embrace it, and how this is going to really change fashion design and how we think about world building within fashion. These kind of universes that these emerging designers are creating, they could easily become books, films, virtual experiences, and I really do think we are entering this new era where designers are world builders, they're storytellers, and they really are artists of culture in a way. So I just find that aspect so exciting. Similarly, I do also think we are going to see both luxury and fast fashion brands try to create this idea of lore, and obviously some luxury brands, or the majority of luxury brands to be honest, do already have a lore. If you think about Miu Miu, they really have this Miu Miu girl persona that surrounds their brand, and I think that's really amazing. But I do think we will see some kind of less amazing attempts from fast fashion to create a whole lore or world building around their brand, but it will be interesting to see how this does manifest. I think we've only just scratched the surface of lore fashion, and I'm really intrigued to see how it does evolve for the rest of the year. So of course I'm intrigued to hear if you like this idea of lore fashion, if you're into it, and if you've been embracing lore in your wardrobe, or if there's any designers that you're really into, or a specific piece that you think holds lore in your wardrobe. I would absolutely love to know. And of course, definitely subscribe to this channel if you liked this video. Send me a message on Instagram if you want to chat to me. And until the next one, I hope you have an amazing day. Bye.